take two. Bradley Sowash and Tim Topham here, my special colleague and special guest and friend, wonderful piano teacher all the way from Australia for this month's Improv Tip of the Month and Q&A.
Very cool to be here, Bradley.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We've been on the road together for quite a number of days, teaching at 88 Creative Keys, workshop in Denver, and also at the National Conference for Keyboard Pedagogy in Chicago. So we've really had our hands full and had a couple of days of fun. Instead of doing our usual, or my usual, improv tip of the month that's based on embellishing or changing a melody or an intro, outro, little tricks like that, we're going to do a little bit about how you can easily compose a pop-sounding tune using just 4 chords today. So the structure is that I'm going to go ahead and do a little theory that's a preview, and then I'm going to hand it over to Tim, and I'm going to pretend that I'm a mock piano student, and here teach me those lessons. Thanks, I see people rolling in here.
Yeah.
We're a little far from the camera, so I can't welcome you because my eyes can't see that far, but thanks so much for stopping by. So let's just do a quick little theory lesson on the chords in a key. The chords in a key. We're going to be dealing with chords in the key of C because that's the people's key. So I'm going to write right here a C scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So hopefully you can see that. Yep. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack thirds. So I'm going to go up 2 notes from C in the scale. C, D, E. And then 2 more notes up from E makes a G. C, D, E, E, F, G. So I'm skipping the notes on the black keys there to make C, E, G. And that's where we're going to find the chords in the key. Thank you. I'm going to do that for each chord. D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C. You want to have your student do this. If you are teaching this, don't hand them a ready-made handout. Work this out just like I am in real time. So we have here now C, all these chords that are in the key. And we're going to now just name those chords. This is a C chord, so I'll put a line here for the names. This is a D minor, a D plus an M. E minor is E plus M. F is major by default, so I'll just say F. I don't have to say F major. Same with G. And A minor is minor. Now this is a B diminished chord, but guess what? We're not going to use that in this lesson. And that's actually what I do with more beginning students, is just knock that difficult chord out. So we should have, we see the whole thing, C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor. That sounds like this. C, D minor, E minor, F, moving right up the scale, G on the bottom, A minor, and there's the B diminished we're not going to use. One more thing, and I'll hand it over to Tim. It's nice to refer to these chords with Roman numerals so that they become generic rather than specific, meaning the chords can be referred to as a progression no matter what the key. So we're going to use a capital Roman numeral I for the C chord, and capital makes it major. And a lowercase Roman numeral 2 for the D minor, and a lowercase Roman numeral 3 for the E minor. Capital IV chord, the kids who don't know Roman numerals call that IV, but it's just a 4. Capital 5 and a lowercase 6. So now we can talk about, if we were in the key of C, we could play a 1, 4, 5. In the key of C, that would mean C, F, G, but we could play 1, 4, 5 in any key by referring to them as numbers. So if you don't have a little theory background, that's what we're going to be talking about today as a preview. So now I'm going to put on my student hat. And I've just come to my lesson. Hi, Mr. Tim.
Hi. So you guys do that whole Mr. Bradley?
Sometimes, usually for the first 2 lessons.
We do it. Some teachers do it in Australia. I'm just happy to be called Tim. I don't really.
Okay.
It's funny. So anyway, so Bradley, last few lessons we've been doing some 12-bar blues, right, in the key of C.
Oh yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. So can you show me the 3 chords you're using to do the 12-bar blues? What were they in the key of C?
I remember it was the 1 chord, which was C.
Right.
The 4 chord, which was F.
Right.
And the 5 chord, which was G.
Beautiful, great. And so we might, as a bit of a review, just play a little blues. Let's do a quick little blues just to get that back in our head. What if we just kind of sound? Can you remember the little improv scale we were using in the right hand? If I do the chords, could you do a little improv?
Just my right hand.
Yeah. Here we go. Well, it's just to get us back in the musical swing of things.
All right, here we
2,
go.
3, 4. back in our head. The great thing is that with only the addition of one more chord, we can actually change our little composition to something that sounds a little bit more pop rather than jazz.
That'd be fun. I like pop music.
Yeah, cool. So the chord that we're going to add, I want you to actually shut your eyes and see if you can work out where this chord is. I'm going to play the 3 chords that you know. So here's the C, just listening, F, here's G, and here's the new chord we're going to add.
Huh, I could hear that was higher than the G.
Right. So can you see if you can try and play that chord?
Here's
Yeah,
my
let's
C,
go
my
through.
F, G.
Good. And we went a bit higher, right? Nice job. Beautiful.
Okay.
Great. So with these 4 chords, we can play a whole lot of very, very cool pop.
All right.
So should we try a pop chord progression now?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Beautiful. So the 3 chord progressions that I love using with my students are these 3 here. So we'll play through this first one. So it's C, G, A minor, and F. So A minor is your new chord. You can hear that it's got that slightly sadder sound.
Yeah.
There's the major, right?
Oh.
So C, G, A minor, F, and for all of these, we're just going to keep a nice steady beat. So, then we change. And then F. Nice job. Brilliant. And what I'd like you to do is, if you can play it like I'm playing it, so I'm going to play with my chords in my right hand, and down here you're going to either do octaves if you've got big hands, or just a single note.
Okay.
Okay, and you're going to repeat the right hand chord while you hold down the left hand. This is what I call a pop piano style. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Nice job. And finish on C. Great job. So the second chord progression, which I think all students should know, is this one here. C, A minor, F, and G.
So those are the same chords in a new order.
Exactly, yeah, and
Right.
you'll probably feel this will sound a little bit familiar. And let's give it a bit of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 change chord, then the F. Okay, here we go. Ready and A minor. Good. Nice job. Repeat that one. And if you were an adult student, I would ask you what kind of vintage, what decade does that sound like?
Reminds me of the 50s.
Yeah, 50s, 60s. Grease the musical is what I always think
Grease,
of, right?
yeah.
All right, and the last one, and this is a very modern chord progression. You'll recognise the sound of this because you're a teenager now. A minor, F, so we're going to start on the A minor this time.
Oh, okay.
A minor, F, C, and G. Let's get a thumbs up for Bradley if he plays this one well. Here we go. A minor. Let's go back to 4 chords again.
Yeah, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4 of each. Good, let's get a heart for Bradley. Alright, one more time. Good, we'll finish on A minor. Yeah, nice. Oh, look at all the hearts coming up.
Oh.
Yeah, good job.
He's a good teacher.
So these 3 chord progressions, that would be, that's where I'd kind of stop that first lesson if we were introducing that. And I'd say go home and muck around with these chord progressions, play them in 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, different time signatures, different grooves, and definitely using some backing tracks. So,
Okay.
So you could easily put any of these into iReal Pro, either with the chords or just with a beat. Are you going to go and put a beat on?
Yeah, let's put a beat on.
Let's play. Alright, so let's do, I like the last one, it's
Okay,
kind of my vintage, when I grew up, which was kind of the 80s and 90s, so let's do A minor one, here we go! to be in the same room as my buddy here. This is this never happens.
So even though we just showed off a little bit, I had, took off our 12-year-old hats. Really, the raw materials there are the same. It's those 4 wonderful chords that you hear all over in Pachelbel's Canon and Journey, Don't Stop Believing tunes, Let It Be. These are all so many songs use these chords. And what we did to decorate it was add a lot of rhythm. And I was messing around with the pentatonic scale. What were you doing?
Yeah, I was thinking pentatonic, but I was also thinking about some of my favourite kind of. So these little, and you've got the same things. They're tiny little. You call them licks.
Licks in your bag. I call it your bag of tricks.
Yeah. They're just things I know are going to sound cool, and so you chuck them in. This and this. That kind of one of my favourite. Let's get onto that in just one sec, because I just want to show you what you can do. We've got time for this, right?
Yeah.
Just show you what you can do in that second lesson with a student, and that's to go, okay, well, so you've mucked around with these chords, Bradley, and this is really great, these progressions. Let's now make up your own. How cool would that be?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. All right, so there's a few different ways that you can do this, and what the student needs to know is that the only real rules are that we're going to stick to 4 chords, and we're going to start and finish on C. To start with, okay?
All right.
So we're going to show you a couple of different ways you can actually do this. Let's try we'll try the beach ball. All right. So
that has all chords on it.
Oh yeah. So okay. So actually, I gotta make sure I cover all bases. So Bradley, this is lesson number 2, right?
Lesson number 2. Hi, Mr. Tim.
So you know how last week we were playing some really cool progressions using what were the 4 chords we were using?
Oh, let's see. I remember it was the 1, 4, and 5 from the blues progression. And
right.
We added a new one, the 6 chord.
Very, very good. Okay, so there's actually 2 more cool chords that we can add to our progressions, right? And they are these 2 over here. We could do the chord stack, right? So the 2 chord, which is a D minor, and the 3 chord, which is E minor.
Okay.
And the great thing is that all of these 6 chords tend to sound really, really good together.
Why is that?
They're all part of the diatonic scale.
They're all
in the key of C, right?
Okay,
They're all in the same key.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're going to now experiment. You're going to make up your own progression, right? So the only real rules are that you start on C. Oh, that's really bad. You start on C and you finish on C. So I tend to set it up like this. And then we'll show you a few fun ways that you can get students to actually come up with the different chords, right? So I'll normally give them something that looks like this.
So we got a C.
So there's your C, and we're literally going to fill in the blanks, and you can do this in any number of ways. So should we try the beach ball?
Yeah.
Let's try the beach ball.
Yeah. So I did earlier, I wrote all the chord symbols on this beach ball, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and also you could use a big dice. I was actually at Target this morning at 9 a.m. looking for a dice, and there's something called yard dice, of which they were out. August is a popular month for that.
That would look something like this, right?
Yes, bingo, yeah.
And you can get big foam ones.
Or even just numbers, because if they were regular dots, the 1 could be a 1 chord, the 2
regardless of the key.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so you want to toss this to me.
Okay, here we
We
go.
already know the C chord.
Yeah, so we're starting with the C chord. So chord number 2 is going to be A.
I'm going to look under my right hand, and it has a 6.
Alright, so if I'm writing chords, Bradley, in the key of C, what's the 6th chord going to be?
C, D, E, F, G, A. It's that A minor chord.
A minor, very good. Alright, next one.
And I'm under a 4 this time.
Yeah.
This is looking like like when we did earlier.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Okay, so I'd ask him that would be an F chord.
I'll just give this a spin.
Yeah.
And I landed on 1.
1, okay. This will be interesting. Alright, so that's our chord progression. The next thing is, without much more talking, just start playing it with the student. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that we always make sure you finish again on C. And this is an interesting one to talk about because, of course, we've got 2 C's in the 1 progression. I reckon we could rub this last one out and spice it up with something.
Yeah, we can use chance to get the creative wheels turning, and then use taste to refine it.
Yeah. All right. So one more roll. Let's just add a new one here. Going for D
And I've
minor or E
got
minor.
2 on the.
Oh yeah, okay, good. Well, this will be interesting.
All right.
All right, so here's our progression now. Let's try it out. Here we go. 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, that's actually not bad. And look, I would play this a number of times with the students. I wouldn't stop after one. It's just a time thing for us.
Right.
Students will really enjoy playing this kind of thing because they feel like they're a little bit of a pop star.
Right, because they just thrown together chords. Well, let me throw a comment in here. If you don't like the progression or it seems a little not bad but a little weak, here's a little trick. In music school and composition, I was a composition major. They taught us that sometimes the chord that is 1/3 down can be a little weaker than another choice. So we have an F chord here, and 2 notes down from F is D minor. And that's not a very big change. That's why it's not fascinating.
2 notes are the same, right?
2 notes are the same.
And
So
it's also a progression that goes down 2, down 2, down 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was actually kind of as weak as you could make it, and it still sounded.
Yeah, it didn't sound too bad. The other thing I love about the chants, and you could do it with a die, you could do it with the beach ball, you could do it with Decide Now, the app, any kind of thing that will give chants is great. Because of the learning that you can get from this last chord in particular, one of the things that students need to learn about at some stage is cadences. And this idea that there's, a 4 or a 5 chord here is generally going to sound better going back to the C. That's not always the case, but generally speaking. So when students do funny things like if they did no chants and they just wrote out C, D minor, E minor, F, that would be kind of weak because it's just moving up step by step.
Right.
Even though the F is not a bad cadence, but you get all these great talking points when students come up with things and you play them and you go, well, so how did that sound? Did it sound really complete? Did it flow?
And what I like about that is they're discovering it instead of seeing it on some theory sheet about half cadences and authentic cadences. They're hearing it and seeing it and experiencing it.
Yeah.
Let's try an A minor one.
All right.
Let's throw an A minor down there, and, and I'll give this a spin.
Here we go.
And the numbers will still refer to the major key, but so A minor is first, and I've got a 5 chord. So, well, yeah, it landed on 5.
All right.
So that's going to be G, A minor G.
Oh, you got to keep working in the key.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I've got a 4 chord. That's going to be F. And let's see what happens here. And I landed on 2. So we have that F to D minor again. That's probably a little weak. So since we learned that about 2 going down, I'm gonna adjust that one if that's okay. Or should we try it?
Let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's just so everyone can hear it.
2, 3.
Actually, it's not too bad,
You know, sometimes another trick is that if this does not sound conclusive, you could do that first, and then on the second time around, adjust it so that it has a kind of almost equal 2 parts. We do this one, the second time around, maybe play an A minor here to get you back home, or we can play the 5 chord in the key of A minor.
Yeah, and that's a really good learning experience. Let's do that now, because students, if they roll this on a die or the beach ball, they're going to end up with an E minor here, right?
Right.
Now, and this is the best way to learn about raising sevenths and harmonic minors and things like that. Let's play this chord progression, Bradley. Here we go.
A minor, G, F,
and E minor. 2 and 3 and 4. You know what? It actually works pretty well. In some of these minor chord progressions, the student's ear is going to go, something is wrong with this E minor. I want an E major to lead us back to.
It's kind of like that.
But this is great. There's no, for me, when I teach this stuff, there's no preconceived ideas of what I want the student to do. It's completely exploratory.
So that's the key here. Let me just hit that. That is such an important part about teaching creativity. Replace the old model where the teacher has all knowledge and the student is an empty vessel to be poured that knowledge into, with the teacher is a fellow explorer on the creativity, mountain.
Yeah.
So
100%. And that means you're going to make some mistakes, right? And that's totally cool. I made a big, whopping great mistake when I was presenting at their workshops this time around. Made a suggestion that nobody commented. They just let me run into a brick wall. And it was hysterical, wasn't it? And it was a great learning experience.
And we just said,
that's what happens when you are doing things creatively with students.
But then you can discuss why it was a mistake. Why didn't it sound great?
Yeah. And you haven't told them. You've opened up the floor to it.
So let's do this twice.
Yeah.
Change this to E.
Okay.
And the next time around, that's our first ending. And the next time around, we'll change it to A minor. So we'll do it twice through A minor, G, F, E, A minor, G, F, A minor.
All right. Give us a thumbs up if you like this one, okay? At least two. Here we go. 2, 3. This because I can use this one of my favorite chords to get back to the
to get home. What was that chord?
That was an E7 on a G sharp
with a G sharp in the bass.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, have we got time for just one tiny little thing, because you've been doing all this very cool funky stuff, but people might not know what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
So as a student, I would then go, okay, Bradley, I like this chord progression. What I'd like to do is I'm going to play it, and I'd like you to improvise on it.
Oh, what note should I use?
Very good question. I would do this, by the way, in the C progression first, just much more simple. So, what if you're in doubt, what do you do with improvising? We've got that saying.
When in doubt, pen out.
When in doubt, pen out. So, can you use, I don't know why I'm doing the American accent thing. Can you use the...
We're rubbing off on them.
Do you know the A minor pentatonic scale? Let's assume that you do.
Yeah, see, the A minor pentatonic scale is the same as the C major pentatonic scale.
Right.
And the formula for a major pentatonic scale, I remember, is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6.
Great.
So, C, D, E, G, A.
Beautiful.
But if we started on an A, well, that would give us...
So that's our pentatonic one?
Sound?
Yeah. So all I do with students is I say, well, let's start with the A. We're going to put the A from the top down the bottom. So we've got the notes A, C, D, E, G. And that should work all right.
Okay.
Except for one chord. And this would be another good discussion I've had with students. One of those notes is going to clash with this one, of course.
Because we changed it away from the key.
Exactly. So we're not going to worry about that now. Would you mind just grooving and trying to restrict how much other stuff you do? See if you can stick just to the pentatonic notes, and we'll see how it
I'll be the
sounds.
melody guy, you just be the accompaniment.
Okay, here we go. And I would do this with students. So I would play their chord progression, they improvise, and then we'd swap jobs. They love it. Great, really great fun. Here we go. 2, 3. Sounds really, really good.
So I use the word safe notes for pentatonic. They can't, you can't really sound bad with those notes, and that's very freeing. Another way we could take this is to limit the improvisation to only chord tones. And the way I like to teach that is you hover over the chord. So I mean, I'm going to get ready to play an A minor, A, C, E, but instead of playing it, my hand is hovering there, and then I throw down notes from outer space that are on that chord. So A, C, E, or A, C, E. So it was 100% chord tones, except for the last chord because I forgot what that chord was. And so what? It still worked, right?
That's right. Yeah. And you kept playing. You didn't stop and start crying.
That's a lot of it. That's a lot of it.
And you can get, for students who then want to go home and work on this, they can record themselves playing their chord progression into their phones, get them to repeat it maybe 4 times, and then they put their headphones on or just play the recording out loud and they improvise over the top of it. So there's no excuses why they can't improv.
Nice. One other thing I might just throw out there, there is a nice app that supports this kind of exploration. I would definitely do it on the piano first, but to sort of send them home, it's called Tin Pan Rhythm. It's a really simple app where you can try out different chords and it will play them for you, so you can kind of listen to them and then say, maybe I don't like that chord, I'll bring in another one. that kind of thing. Tin Pan Rhythm. I always mixed up with Tin Pan Alley, the famous place where George Gershwin was a demonstration pianist with all the new pop songs back in, I can't really say the year exactly. There you go. So I'm going to move up there, Tim, and see if we have any questions. Would you like
why don't I go up there?
All right. All right, yeah, see what's what. If you want to ask us something, now we can move a little closer to the screen, and you can ask us anything you like. You can ask us some improv questions. You can ask us, how often Tim Topham does his laundry when he's on the road, what he eats for snacks. Is there anything you'd like to know? I know you need a moment to think about that. About improvisation, teaching, when we will be playing next, or what we are up to.
How good my mandolin playing has got recently with this instructor here.
We did a little face. So while we're waiting for that question, let me tell you about some things I have coming up, and then I'll turn that over to you to do the same thing, Tim.
Yo.
Most important, August 9th. August 9th, I'm doing a free trial lesson that is my regular online lessons. They're a little bit different than this. I have multi-camera angles on my hands, on my face, and some software that supports that. And it's totally free. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing about that is going to hook you into a mail list or anything like that. Just inviting you to come see how I teach online group lessons. It's a strange concept, but it works beautifully. I mix live lessons with a Facebook private group where we share practice videos and support each other. And you can sign up for that at bradleysowash.com. You do need to sign up because I have to send you the link. And the way I use Google Hangouts has the link available only about 15 minutes before we go live. So I have no way to send it to you or tell you what it is right now. That's why it's important that you sign up. So August 9th, sign up for that free online jazz pop group lesson. I'm going to be hitting some cool Latin sounds like... some of those cliches.
Let's get a heart for this guy.
Yeah. So, they're just tricks. So it's not creative. They're just tricks. So I'm going to hit that on that lesson, and then August 23rd starts my 2 courses. They're 8-week courses. Each runs every other week for 16 weeks. One of them is Charlie Brown Christmas music, and the other one is bossa nova styles. So the Brazilian piano styles that are so compelling. That sound a little like that. So what about you, Tim? What do you have coming up?
So I've got the most relevant thing for guys and girls that are watching today is that I'm actually releasing a course, and I'm doing a webinar all on this concept of 4-chord teaching, 4-chord composing, which I do. It's one of my 2 go-to fun activities for students, particularly if they've forgotten books or have had a bad day or arrived late or whatever it is, like just to be able to throw out a really practical experience for them. I use this and I use 12-bar blues, which are my 2 sort of go-to things. So if that is interesting and you like what we did today, I'm going to dive in really, really deeply on a webinar. It's going to come up later this month.
A lot more detail.
A lot more detail, and it's going to be followed up with a step-by-step course as well, like multiple videos actually showing what I would do each lesson with students. So if you're interested in that, then just make sure you're on my mailing list, and you can do that on my website, timtopham, TOPHAM.com.
And he's good, because I didn't know what a chord was before we started this lesson.
That's right.
And it worked out.
That's how good I am.
So what questions are popping up?
All right, so we got first question from Faye.
Just before we miss it, Lynette
there. Lynette Cook says, I've taken all 4 of Bradley's online lessons last year, loved them, so well.
Oh, thank you, Lynette. Yeah. She's a sweet student, a very dedicated learner.
Now, Jill said, so I have a student with very petite hands. Playing a full chord is difficult. Would you have her do the melody only while you play the chords in order to train her here, and then use backing tracks?
I think that's a question for Tim. It's a dirty little secret that I don't teach children, mostly because I used to, but my studio has too much demand on my time, so I limit it to pretty serious improvising pianists. But so
I've definitely taught kids with small hands. And so under the age of about 7, I don't do so much chord stuff. I don't think they're really ready for that. But from then on, you can start introducing it. If they've got small hands, right hand, I just tend to get them to use fingers, you can see here, 1 and 3. So they can just play C and E for the chord, totally fine.
Root and third for each
Root and third, yeah, because then they can still do majors and minors. And then left hand, just a single note, with whatever finger they're most comfortable with. And for me, it's all about just getting used to the shape. So I don't want them sort of hanging off the edge of the piano and things like that. If they can play nice and comfortably, with just 1 and 2 fingers, that's totally cool. And
Good.
to be honest, I don't get all that fussed about what fingers they use for triads at the start.
Right.
So if they're going to use 1, 2, and 4, if that's comfortable for them, some of them will go with that.
That's just a general rule. Have fun
That's
early
just me.
and refine later.
Yeah.
When you're creating.
Okay, so Faye asks, how often do you teach chords and improv in a traditional lesson?
So more and more, I'm really emphasizing that there is no line between teaching chords and teaching repertory. They're the same. So you can, for example, take a piece of repertory, something from a method book, or let's just say we were doing a little more advanced student with Bach Convention. So we might just say, what are the chords he's using here? And write them in. A minor, E7, A minor. And so we're writing in chord symbols in the classical music, and then breaking it down. And there's a whole thing you can do with a guy called getting under the hood of classics with that. I don't think of them as separate except for this. In my lessons, we start every lesson with a scale and a chord drill, a little practice. You know, something like cadences, but they're a little more elaborate. So how about you?
Yeah, I tend to try and link things together as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that students are making connections in their brain that's going to help them actually understand things. So I try not to kind of segment, Sherry, I'm going to do just chords now, and then I'm going to do tech, and then I'm going to do oral or whatever. Try and link them together. It's not always possible, but try and link them together as much as possible. In answer to your question though, I tend to, I don't know if I've ever sort of talked about this all that openly, I might have written about it once. I tend to split my lessons into just three components, just to make it simple for me to remember. All my students do something with technique, and that could include drills. They all do something with music, and they all do something creative.
You mean sheet music?
So yeah, so written music, and that could be of any genre. I don't just do pop, so there's baroque, classical, romantic, whatever it is, modern piano solos, and then they all do something creative. That might be playing a pop song that they like, it could be composing like this, it could be playing the blues, whatever it is. So if I cover those three areas in each student's lesson, I find that's a really good way for me to structure.
It's funny, we arrived at that independently. I do the same thing. Start with technique, we hit the creativity next, and reading next, and we hit the creativity end.
There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I want to make it like the end is a retreat, and I want them to see improvisation as a treat, not some scary thing that we might feel as classically trained musicians.
Yeah. I've got another. Oh, Sarah, how are you? Sorry, I was just saying what was going on. So there was another question from Sherry. Asks, what's your method for introducing bass lines?
I can talk about that.
Go. Yeah.
So if we take those same chord progressions, let's say we were doing the, I call it the Let It Be progression, C, G, A minor, F. A couple ways to do it. First of all, you can look for connecting notes or passing notes. So C, G, A minor, F. So my left hand did this, C, G, A, F. But it's nice when those connect. So I could go C, G, I'm going to go from A to F through G. A, G, F. And we add more. That was E, F, G. Yeah. G sharp. Okay, and another little tip on that that I hit pretty hard in my lessons is using the, I don't want to get too much in this, but I consider my pinky a bass drum or a bass player, and my thumb is a snare drum. Boom, chick. Boom, chick, like this. So boom, boom, chick, boom, chick, like a drummer. Like that. So that might be about a month's worth of work there for you.
Cool. All right. So, and it depends on the style you want the student to play too. If you're going to teach them how to walk, that's a different style.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
So this is just
the general basis. So in general, add a groove of some kind, even if it's Alberti bass or a boogie woogie, and look for some passing notes between those roots.
Yeah. And just keep it simple to start with. Kids will love this activity. It doesn't matter how simple it is; they will totally love it. Where's the camera? Is the camera over here? I gotta look. Work over. Okay, so Ursula says, "I came in late. Were you playing the A, G, F, E chord progression? Was Bradley improvising using the pentatonic scale?" Yes, he was, with some tricks and licks up his sleeve. What are your most fluid sevenths to improvise on top of that with the left-hand chords? What are the most fluid sevenths to improvise on top of that with the left-hand chords.
Okay, I would say sevenths is kind of maybe a whole other session, but the easiest way to get into sevenths is to absolutely, listen to me, play in the key. Yes, sometimes you might see a C7 in the key of C, and it has a B flat and so on, but if you're just introducing sevenths, just go back to this and add another row. C, E, G I already have. I'm going to stay in the key and write a B. D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D. You can have quicker success with that. So we take that same progression. Now I have a major 7, A minor 7. I'm sorry, C7, major 7. G turns into G7 because that's in the key. Here's a A minor 7 because that's in the key. And here's an F major 7. Now we have more of a lusher, less rock sound.
I don't know about you, but I find students will sometimes accidentally start adding, but if they're teenagers and they've got hands big enough, they'll start making mistakes, and they might play a D in the left hand, and they'll play an F chord by mistake in the right hand. You get this sound,
Right.
and you go, whoa, 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 wait,
What
do
was
that
that?
again. What was that? That was great. Because they'll think that's a mistake,
They
or
have
whatever,
the accident.
and they're not listening. And most of my introduction to inversions or changing bass notes for a chord in the right hand, which I like to do later on as a structured activity, comes from experiments and mistakes that they make, and just making them alert to it, because sometimes they're not even listening.
I think a lot of great music has been made by accident. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you start with an inspiration on a walk or something, but sometimes you're just goofing around and you find a cool finger pattern that you like. So accidents need to be honored, and guess what? They don't happen in a highly structured lesson. If you have a creative aspect like we're doing today, you know, that's where that happens.
Yeah.
So, you know, back to Faye's question, since this is a separate activity, I just want to emphasize what Tim was saying that might have got missed. This longer exploration of chords can be for that lesson when the student has just totally unprepared, they had a rough week, they didn't practice. What are we going to do? Instead of a sort of supervised practice over their normal material, you say, you know what, let's just abandon all that and we're messing around with chords today.
Yeah.
And that's good learning.
Absolutely, yeah. Because the point I want to make, and keep your questions coming, guys. We've got a little bit more time, so if you've got questions, ask them now. The thing I love most about this is it's not just a bit of fun, right? They're actually going to learn more through this and composing than they will in a lot of other activities.
Especially if you as a teacher help make connections. You know, so let's see. There's the Strauss waltz. So what were those chords? C and G. Those are the first two chords of the Let It Be progression.
Yeah, and a great way to fan music. That was Strauss, right?
Yeah, it was Strauss, exactly. So, you know, there's a question popping up.
Yeah. Can you give more ideas to help students work on improv at home, and how do you follow up on assignments regarding improv?
Huge idea on that.
It's a great question, by the
Send
way.
home backing tracks. Suppose we made the progression today of, I don't know, C, A minor, F, G. You can make a backing track in a lot of ways. One is to just simply turn on the phone in the lesson and you lay down a groove for them to work with. A much better way, in my opinion, is to use a wonderful app which I have endorsed over and over, but I have no official connection to, called iReal Pro. I-R-E-A-L-P-R-O. iReal Pro is a lead sheet generator where you type in chords and you can make a custom progression. But if that feels a little daunting, I would mess around with that tin pan rhythm we mentioned earlier. Put in a few chords in there, it plays a groove underneath those chords, and ask them to improvise with it. So that's an easy way. One more app worth mentioning is Music Clock. Music Clock. Those are all apps that provide an all-important rhythm underneath the improvisation that keeps you inspired and interested. Otherwise, you're kind of noodling around and you don't know what's going on. Yeah, so Music Lock, Tin Pan Rhythm, and my favorite is iReal Pro.
Cool. Melody Morrison asks, I came in a little late, so you might have covered this, but when, in the student's piano development, would you introduce the idea of this kind of improvising? I use simple black key, white key improvisation with students on their very first lesson. Good stuff, Melody. It's so much fun to do. But when would you do this? So for me, it's going to depend on the ability of the student, the age, a number of factors. But I think you can add chords in. Okay, let's break it up. If it's a teenager, do chord stuff in the first 1 or 2 lessons, because all the music they're listening to is going to be chord based pretty much, unless they're having to be listening to classical music a lot. So for teenage beginners, it's the best thing to do, full stop, hands down. I won't recommend anything else. For little beginners, then introduce it as you feel appropriate. I've got a little plug for my own course. I've got a whole course and a lot of blog posts on how I teach beginners with no method book for the first few weeks. So I've got lots of activities to do there.
What's that called? No book?
No book beginners. You can search for that on the web, and no book beginners and Tim Topham will come up. So I would do that, and then as I introduce reading, or depending on how that's going, I would start introducing some chord structures.
So let me touch that with my little plug too. So I have a 2-book piano method. It's not like That's Jazz, my 9-book series about how to play jazz. Specifically, it's called a keyboard improvisation method. It's published by Chose Music, KJOS. It's called Creative Chords. It starts at a middle beginner. In other words, it doesn't have the primer. As soon as they can play a whole note in their left hand and quarter notes in their right, that's the level it begins. And I start with chords from day one with that method book. It's been highly vetted and edited to death by a number of expert editors who made sure the pedagogy was correct. So the first tune in there is Hot Cross Buns, and they when they get to the right here, it's a 1-chord song, and the first thing they do is alter that 3rd measure. Here we go. Make your own music. Back to the tune. So we begin improvising right away, and by the end of book 2, they're playing lead sheets and able to plug in styles that are appropriate to the nature of this song, whether it be a folk song or a jazz song or a classical piece. I shouldn't say song, I should say piece. Well, they are songs. They have lyrics. So anyway,
yeah, that's all right.
I start them early.
Nicole says, if you assign them work at home on improv, how do you follow it up? For me, it's about listening to it in that segment of the lesson where I'm doing the creative catch-up. Then the first thing I'll always do is get them to play back what they've done. And if possible, I won't talk too much about it. I'll just play their chord progression. They can show me the improvising they've done, or if they've created a chord progression, I'll hear that. I'll improvise over it or play with them. Whatever it is, try and make it as practical as possible. Less talking is better. More playing is good.
You will know what to say. You say, well, I'm not comfortable improvising myself. It's wrong. You will know what to say. You will hear that there's no time, there's no beat, or that they're stumbling on a chord and can't get to it in time. So you do a little drill around that chord, or you will see lots of the same rhythm. Lots of quarter notes. If that happens, here's my big tip: ask, don't tell. Say, what might make this sound more interesting? And be ready for a real answer. You know, maybe you're looking for more rhythm and they say dynamics, and if they say that, we go with that. So you just tease out creativity. Think about your end goal. You're not actually trying to master something for a recital. You're trying to open the doors to musical exploration, which, here, let's do this. Sam Holland, the director of the Francis Clark Center for Keyboard Pedagogy, has an analogy he gives where when students play 100% from written music, if you compare that to language, it is as if they were only ever reading books and occasionally reciting, but never actually speaking. You want to make the speaking musician come alive as well, and you will watch. It will make the other pieces enhance as well. Because when you make your own music, you're listening, your musicality rises, and your sense of why the notes got to be there in the first place is enhanced.
Let's get some hearts for that, because that was right on the mark.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really, really good. Amy Watt, hello Amy, great to see you online. She says, do you explain major and minor before, or do you just play it?
Great question. If I have...
Wait, what do you think our answer is going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious, right? Let's see what you say.
You use these flaps on the side of your head.
Yeah.
If I have 2 ice cream cones here in a test market, and they both are without color, they look vanilla, but neither is vanilla. One is chocolate and one is strawberry. And I say to Tim, see if you can identify which is chocolate and which is strawberry. You're not going to analyze them chemically, right? And break them down.
Yeah.
You're just going to lick it.
Yeah.
So you can hear whether it's major or minor. That said, if you stay in the key, sometimes, listen to this, C, D minor, E minor, F, like Lean on Me. So those are all the first 4 chords in the key. Sometimes students will say they all sound major to me. They sound happy because they're hearing the tonality of C major rather than the individual chords. The way point out the difference. If they're stuck, C sounds major, D minor does too. Just raise that third and compare it.
Yeah.
Count half steps later. Just experience them now.
Yeah, and that, I mean, there's multiple schools of thought as to how the chord structure should be learnt by students. Is it skipping intervals? Is it a pattern-based recognition on the piano of white, black, whites, or black, white, blacks, and things like that? Look, there's many ways to do this, but the first step is, for me anyway, to work in the key of C and get those chord shapes done and known really, really well.
Me too. Stay in the key. I'm heavily biased towards learn the chords in a key rather than chords independently. I cut you off there, but
and many people will sort of ask. The next question is, when do you introduce inversions? I'm glad no one's asked that yet. For me, the other thing that starts happening is when students are creating a chord progression. So let's say it's in C and they jump to G. They'll start to realise that they're moving huge distances and it's very uneconomical. So if they're getting good at that next lesson when they come back and play this progression really, really well, I can say, well, here, are you ready for the next level tip? And you can go, okay, well, see how you're jumping around a whole lot? I've got an even better way to play this. And so you can start introducing just the movement between like the C and to a G in an inversion. Like, don't add all the inversions. I don't. These exercises are great sometimes,
down the road.
but later on. Just get them to move between a couple of chords, because that will then open them up to
here's
if it worked for those two chords, what can I do with the next two chords or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have that aha, like, oh gosh, there's a reason for this. I see the inversions are helping, and it sounds better too. So it's all you're kind of learning through discovery and explaining what's. You could just say there's a cool trick. It's an easier way to play that. They're going to go, wow, I like that.
Yeah.
So at least some cases, or they're going to roll their eyes because they had a bad day. But it's not all amazing. But most students will really jam on these chords, I think.
By the way, if you're enjoying this, make sure you click that little share button, which is down there, I think, for you guys, right?
Which brings me
share
to
it around. It's like it's so good that we're actually in the same room together. Right? Let's just get this out to as many people as possible, right?
Yeah, share it around, and also there you can want people who came in late, or you'd like to watch this again. It's easy to find the replay. It's on this particular one is on Bradley Sowash's Facebook profile, and the way Facebook has it set up, if you go to more, the word more at the top, it'll say videos. More.
It wants me to speak more American. Give me a thumbs up.
More. Good eye, Mike.
Oh, don't do it.
Don't do it.
No.
So you can watch it again if you want. And there's some other ones up there as well. I do this every month. It's just not always possible for Tim to commute here since he lives 3,000 miles away. So
at least. Margie, I've just seen your question there. I need to leave. Are you recording? Yes, these are automatically recorded. So go to Bradley's personal profile. I'll share it on mine as well.
Yeah.
So you'll see it around the web, hopefully. I'm just going to flick back. We've still got 30 or so people here. So if you've got any more questions for us,
we got about 3 more minutes, 5 more minutes. We're going to wrap up soon. So
let me just have
questions.
Nicole liked that quote from Sam. Thanks, Donna. Hey, Bradley and Tim, you make it. Y'all make a good team.
Y'all make a good team. I want to do a little call out to Leela Viss. The 3 of us taught at
Leela's on, I think. Yeah.
So Leela is the part of the a group of piano pedagogues who are trying to move us into the future of piano playing, move us forward. I would throw into that group as well. Forrest Kinney. Writes wonderful books called Pattern Play about how to get started with improvisation. Christopher Norton, Daniel McFarland, at certain points he doing improv, I'm not sure. But let's see, Elena Cobb in the UK. There are a number of teachers who are aware that we are stuck kind of in the 19th century, and that all the guitar players are having all the fun playing chords and pop songs, and this is the way we're going to hook our students into continuing this, the tradition of this great instrument. So keep your eye out for the teachers who I loosely call the members of the eye-ear revolution. That means teachers who value equally the reading eye and the improvising creative ear. Even creative is controversial because, of course, there's creativity in interpreting written music as well. But so eye and ear, reading music, but also using your ear with all those skills that are coming out of making up your own notes.
Yeah, and I think I can speak for Bradley in saying that for us, a quality music education is one that it covers all bases. So we don't neglect technique, we don't neglect all different genres of music. We play that, we teach it. but we try and, as we've said during this session, find those links between that music and its underlying harmony and progressions, because it's about, for me, it's about going deeper. It's not just about having fun, it's actually the skills that students need to understand how music's constructed. And
right.
In my presentation at NCKP, I gave the image of an iceberg. If you can picture an iceberg, that tiny bit on the top, that's the bit that so much music education focuses on. Reading, performance, and interpretation. It's right up there above the water. What you don't see is the rest of the iceberg, which is the knowledge students need to really understand music, and that's so much based around this stuff here.
Yep, applied theory,
practical theory, creativity, and one of the things that I picked up from one of those speeches that we've been at these conferences, and I picked up was the analogy one of the speakers made between art teachers, giving students, they create a project at school over a few weeks, and then they take it home. And they give their parents this, crumbly ashtray to use when they don't even smoke, right?
Because they made it in art class,
yeah. And the parents go, oh, it's beautiful. And many parents still have them when their children are adults, right? And they're cleaning out the cupboards and look, there it is. My question is, what are we giving our students to take home to their parents that they've created?
Right, that they've made themselves.
Yeah.
Hugely important,
yeah.
Alongside traditional skills. Well, let's call that a wrap.
Yep. So, do you want to I think we've just got some thank yous coming through now, which is kind of cool. Oh, do you do the 88 Creative Keys every summer, or is it just every other year?
No, 88 Creative Keys is every summer, and it's always and forever in Denver, Colorado, and it's always in July. I have not posted the new dates. We haven't even decided them yet. We've literally been back from the road one day. So we will start to think about that. But every summer in July, and it's limited to 30 teachers. We sold out 2 months in advance this year. So when you see the announcement, you may wish to get on that registration quickly. We have no intentions of making it a big conference. So
yeah, getting quick. They're selling out fast now, right? I look like I'm quite yellow. My liver is okay, don't get worried. Sherry Brooks Garlic says, count me in, I've been teaching this way for 30 years. Go Sherry.
Nice, Sherry.
I think that's kind of it.
Good, so I'm going to do my traditional closer that I love to use as closer. I'm a nature show freak, and if you all remember Marty Stouffer closing the Wild America, he always had a signature
I have no idea what you're talking
shut off. So I'm going to need you to stop it.
Stop talking?
If you
right, okay.
So do you have any final comments?
I thought you were going to quietly say, I just need you to stop talking.
No, just can you hit the racket? Do it.
I'll go.
He's my cameraman.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. That's been really, really cool.
Yeah,
really
but
cool.
let me do my signature sign off.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, here we go.
I don't know what's about to happen.
So until next time, enjoy your creative music making journey. See you soon.
See you guys. No, I think keyboard down.
Finish.